Welcome and good evening to everyone, and perhaps good morning to some of you. Thank you for joining us. While we still wait for other attendees, I think we can get started, and once they join us, they can pick up from where we will be at the time. My name is Annette Kasebele. I'm an associate at BFA and the project manager for RegTech for Regulator Accelerator, also known as R2A. I'm your host for this webinar, and I'm accompanied by my colleague Ranjan, who will be hosting the webinar. So this is the first of the R2A webinar series. For those of you who are hearing about R2A for the first time, just a brief introduction about the project. So R2A is an initiative aimed at prototyping technology solutions for emerging markets, financial authorities. R2A has partnered with financial authorities in Mexico and the Philippines to develop and test prototypes that would enhance the capability to supervise and regulate financial markets. So in addition to prototyping these solutions, R2A facilitates peer learning through forums such as webinar series that we are doing today. And so most of these webinar, and we've set up a learning network on the DFI platform. So if any of you are interested to stay engaged with R2A and learn more about what some of the RegTech development activities are going on, feel free to send us information about your interest to join. So for today's webinar, we're going to talk about the National Bank of Rwanda experience in implementing the electronic data warehouse system. So this webinar will be led by Wilson Kamali. He's the Director of Statistics at the National Bank of Rwanda, and he is accompanied by Haider Karim. He is the project manager from Sunider, which is the vendor that has developed the electronic data warehouse system. Yeah, so just a few things to note before we get started. This session will be about an hour. And if you have any questions or comments, those can be posted on the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. So we'll try to answer most of the questions towards the end of the presentation. And another thing to keep in mind is that the webinar is going to be recorded, and we'll share the link to all the participants and some attendees who couldn't make it today after the webinar. So get started soon. I'll just switch over to the deck that Mr. Wilson is going to use for the presentation. So Wilson, over to you.
Thank you, Annette. So I don't see the forward back. Have you given me the rights to do myself the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I don't see it.
So no. I can move it for you if you just tell me when to move.
Okay. Okay, maybe let's start from this, the first slide. Thank you, Annette. It's my pleasure to join, and thank you for the invitation to share our experience so far in implementing this project. My pleasure to meet you all, the attendees and the participants. As mentioned, my name is Wilson Kamali, who is the project manager on the side of the Central Bank, National Bank of Rwanda. And partly this presentation, I'll be doing it with the vendor, the project manager, Karim, that will introduce himself. So before I start going through the slides, maybe just for the information for everyone to know where we are, is that we are close to the end of this project. It's now coming to 2 years. But as I say, is that we have loaded it to over 600 stakeholders. We have the commercial banks, we have insurance companies, we have microfinance institutions, we have the small savings circles, those are savings associations for deposit and loans. So we have forex bureaus, also having their data coming through this data warehouse project. We have telecom companies. In Rwanda, we have 2. Initially, there were 3, but 2 have merged into 1, so we have 2. We have money transfer operators. Basically, all institutions regulated by the Central Bank of Rwanda. Besides the regulated institutions, we also have the Rwanda Revenue Authority that we have an MOU on data sharing on imports and exports, or the data coming here, and then the Ministry of Finance on public debt data. So briefly, those are the stakeholders that who we have linked to this data warehouse. So largely all regulated institutions are on live. When I say live, that means we can get yesterday's data. So at the moment, we are trying to, we're in the process of data validation and then trying to kind of clean up or mainstream in terms of the system's requirements. So the target is that by June this year, any manual reporting should be ceased to whichever institution that reports to the central bank. And our data collection is at granular level. We are not collecting reports. No, we are the data we are getting is at primary level data. For any report that the central bank wants, the system has the business intelligence part that provides or produces for structured reports, dashboards, and graphics. So I hope that gives an overview. So during the presentation, probably we should all understand where we are and what we have done. So Annette, maybe you can move to the next slide. Okay, thank you. So basically, this is the outline. I'll try to say why we chose this. And then there will be the architecture point of view that I'll do it together with the vendor. It is myself, I'm not an IT. Actually, my position in the central bank is in statistics. But given the statistics is the custodian of all the data in the bank, so that is how I come in, much as we have supervision departments that are also part of this. But as a project manager on the side of the bank, that is how my connection comes to this data warehouse. Thank you. Next slide. So how this came up for the National Bank of Rwanda to think of the data warehouse, and the data warehouse in a sense that we try to minimize any manual preparation of the data that is being pushed to the central bank. So, of course, one, as indicated as in the first bullet, is have a data repository center where data from external stakeholders and from internal system is centralized and managed in one area, which was unlike before, where data was scattered in different departments within the central bank. Let it be data from banks is only managed by the bank supervision team. Data from insurance is managed from the insurance supervision team, and so whoever would need data would go to the different departments. Then statistical inconsistency, eliminating statistical inconsistency. Through here, we had to develop, I can say, for each data from each different stakeholder, developing a taxonomy, or we can say a data dictionary, so that everyone defines the data in the same way, which was unlike before. One quick example is when you say data to SMEs, each institutions define their SME in their own way or according to their internal policy. But in this case, we had to develop guidelines and trying to define things in the same way. If you talk about economic sector, what Bank X defined as manufacturing initially was different from what Bank B defines. So here we had to standardize the definition of each and every data that is extracted. So the third is efficient data capture. As I mentioned, is that initially institutions prepare their reports in Excel and then they submit to the different concerned departments. So in that process, some, in one or cases, there are delays, but through this process, through this system, every data is defined in terms of frequency and how it should be captured. The other is access to the data in information. Of course, as I mentioned, data being scattered across departments or divisions, it was always difficult to have, getting access to the data. They say people in the research or in the monetary policy, if they want data on bank access, loans, dispatched, so they either had to go to the department. So this was always a hurdle. So as I said this, I think I'm also trying to bring the benefits that we're getting out of this. Data sharing, having one source of the data, the true point of the data for everyone in the bank. This is key. This was key, and the data warehouse is designed to, to address those gaps. I've already talked about multiple sources in terms of data storage, centralized analysis and reporting. As I mentioned, these two, there's a correction point, but there's also the analysis part, the BI, that I'll continue to refer in this presentation. So next slide, Annette. So what are we benefiting? One was to minimize a lot of challenges that were related to manual reporting. So manual reporting basically was a big challenge to the data reporters. In most cases, you would find in maybe one bank, it would take 5 days to prepare the Excel reports. And these would be prepared maybe using 2 to 5 resources from the bank. So the question, so how to minimize this burden that the central bank puts to the data providers? So that is how the automation aspect element comes in. How do we automate the reporting process without requiring a staff in Bank X or in Insurance X to sit and prepare, the Excel reports? So in this, as indicated in the slide, you can imagine the resources that institutions were put in place to prepare the prudential reports. Resources, it is time consuming and inefficient because of, manual preparations and the high costs that are related to that. Now, when it comes to the central bank, the consolidation point, as I mentioned, you can imagine how the different departments are managing their own way. But here it would require every staff in the central bank to get data for the Bank X and then try to summarize it. Then you can imagine consolidating data for the banks, for the MFIs and the SACCOs. We have over 400 SACCOs. So you can imagine the staff requirements for the central bank to put in place in a manual way to consolidate such data and information. And of course, this moves with challenges in terms of likely errors or, data gaps during this process of consolidation. The regulatory reporting. Of course, when the data comes and it is erroneous or it is missing, there are penalties. And sometimes these errors are due to the manual way of how the stakeholders do. And the consequences is, fines, warnings, so you can imagine. So this reporting, regulatory reporting, related challenges through this system, because through this system is we want the data that is pulled, there is no manual intervention, except for institutions that do not have core systems in place, or are not do not have MIS systems in place, like forex bureaus and the circles. What they do, still they prepare Excel and they upload. So for them, but in the long run, what is the central bank is trying to help all these circles is to ensure that they automate their processes. Bank is investing in heavily, trying to see how they automate their processes. Next slide, please. So these are other associated benefits to what I've already said, is that within the system, because we are getting timely data, unlike before, where the frequency was at the end of the month or the end of the quarter. But here we are able to get data for yesterday or for 2 weeks. So through this, from the supervision point of view, they are able to see where the gaps, and then they take timely measures, through the financial indicators or other early warning indicators that have been set or defined within the system. It helps to take cost collections ahead of time. Unlike previous where you had to wait at the end of the period to get the data. Performance trend analysis, with this it is easy. As I mentioned, we are getting granular data. So from the output reports, we are able to have drill downs and get to the lowest level information, which is key for the supervision, point. So here we're able to do deep dive analytics by products, by customer gender, by customer location or region, those kind of high level trends that would be needed for, let's say, in financial inclusion monitoring and analysis. Turnaround times, improve reporting turnaround time by using efficient tools. Regulatory reporting, I've already indicated this, automating entire BNR reporting, not only save time, but also cost to the stakeholders. I've already said about this. Then the BI, the business intelligence tool, aim to provide timely dashboard and trend analytics at different levels, from management point of view, middle management, and then the operation. Then, as I said, is a single source of truth for any financial sector data for the country and for the regulator. Then the consolidation and improving the quality of control. So basically these are the benefits that we are starting to see, that we see, and we continue to enhance it, especially on the BI analytics part, to be able to provide different information to the different users. Then we are looking forward how to allow accessibility to some of these high-level indicators, sharing them to external stakeholders. And here, of course, we have the IMF, we have to prepare output reports as per their standards, and in future, we link it to the IMF website where they're able to have timely data without relying for someone to provide. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide. So here we ask my colleague, the architecture designer, to come in and maybe illustrate what does this mean. Thank you. Karim, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Wilson and Anit, for giving this opportunity to speak about this National Bank of Rwanda Enterprise Data Warehouse and Business Intelligence Solution. For this architecture, I'll just explain how we designed it. Actually, when we started this project, we coordinated with each department, each division at National Bank of Rwanda, and then we gathered the requirements and how the existing reports are coming. Based on those existing reports, what type of analysis they are doing. So keeping in mind those requirements, we designed data warehouse in a way that we can get the lowest level data directly from the core systems of the stakeholders, whoever is on a automated system or they have core banking MIS systems. So in that case, we have our stakeholders like banks, MFIs, insurance companies, financial institutions, the government ministries, and then your Forex bureaus, as mentioned by Wilson already. So all these, we reviewed all the incoming reports and the outgoing reports, and then based on that, we designed our architecture that how the data should flow. Now, we are not talking any reports from the stakeholders here, already clarified by Wilson. We are just taking the lowest level data, which actually is mandatory for various type of analysis for the BNR and for the government institutions and other agencies who are actually dependent on BNR's data. So we, while reviewing, we came across that there are many stakeholders who have proper systems in place, and we can get data directly through automated data flow. So we designed two ways of data collection. One was automated data flow, and the other was non-ADF process, non-automated data flow, which was through Excel uploads. So in that case, we designed many templates with various fields to capture the data, either it is financial or it is non-financial. So we are not only capturing financial data here, we are also capturing non-financial data, as mentioned by Wilson, that we need analysis on customer gender, on age bracket, on geographic locations, and all other dimensions. So having that process in mind, we created this automated data flow and the non-automated data flow, from which, again, the frequency we decided, because there were many reports coming, existing reports coming on daily, monthly, weekly, bi-monthly, quarterly, and then half-yearly, and then yearly. There were many reports, and it was actually time consuming. So one can imagine some stakeholders were reporting after a quarter. So after a quarter reporting, you know what could be the implications. You cannot decide what is happening. So on that basis, we decided that we will be using only two frequencies, like daily and monthly only. It will actually help us to get the weekly data from the daily itself, the bi-monthly from the daily, and the monthly will help us to get the quarterly and half-yearly and other ad hoc requirements. And then historical data, we have kept an option also, because in BNR, National Bank itself, there were some MIS systems. They were consolidating for previous years. not on a lowest level, but on a high level, the reports were consolidated between different segments or divisions in BNR. So even we kept that option also open, that we can upload the historical data if it is in order to upload and match with the current data structure. Of course, it will not match the lowest level, but on a high level, we can have comparisons and trend analysis also. All right, and then the financials and non-financials. Financials are your balance sheet, income statement, like trial balances, all these things will come. And the non-financial is actually the customer demographic, account information, your contracts for loans and term deposits and pension schemes and insurance products. All these are actually coming from the non-financial data. So on the BI part, we are actually taking financials and linking it with the non-financial data to provide many type of output analysis and trends. And then we have pre-built interactive dashboards as well as customized dashboards also, which will feed from this data warehouse. And as mentioned by Wilson, it will be for the top management, middle management, and all other relevant stuff. And after that, we have a report suite where the departments have requested certain reports to be standard reports. They need it on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. So those reports are already built in, customized, and available for the internal stakeholders to analyze or to review. The second thing is now if we see if you want to see a country balance sheet, including consolidated balance sheet of all stakeholders, it's just a button. And they can just click on National Bank of Rwanda and run a balance sheet, and they can see a consolidated balance sheet for the country. Similarly, there are many reports pre-built and customized as well. And after that, then we have a catalog. Catalog is actually an ad hoc reporting tool where we made it easy for the business users who are not technical. They can just drag and drop and generate their own data to analyze financials or non-financials on various dimensions. All right, and then we have flexibility to link it to other graphical tools or OLAP analytics tools readily available in the market. We can also link with those. All right, Aneth, can we move to the other slide? Okay. Data flow, ADF, upload, architecture, and components. Actually, we almost covered all these things. So the actual way of transmitting the data to the from the stakeholders to BNR, we again kept two channels, one through internet and through intranet. Through intranet, actually, we are consolidating all internal systems of BNR also. So we are not only taking the external stakeholders data, but internal BNR systems also. So the internet option, we have published the website through internet, and anyone can access through internet and upload the data for the non-ADF stakeholders. So in the ADF stakeholders, there are banks, insurance companies, pension funds, these exchange houses. Some of the exchange houses are on ADF and some are on non-ADF. So we have kept both options open for all the stakeholders who have actually problems with the automated systems. So in microfinance also, as mentioned by Wilson, there are many we have seen, they don't have even system, they're just using ledgers. And but they have at least Excel option, so that they are putting it at the day end in the Excel and they are uploading it. Frequency we have discussed. Data connectivity, we had two options available in the initial stage, but we decided we will pull data, not the pushing option will not be good for us, because we want to automate in a way that there is no human intervention and everything comes automatically. Now in this automated ADF process also, the stakeholders have designed the views, whatever we have provided. So they have given access to us to access those views and run those views. We cannot go directly into the database, but there is a middle where they are keeping the views and scripts where our BNR's application server just connects on the time assigned or allotted, and just runs the data, runs the scripts. The script gets us the data, highly encrypted, and it comes to the data warehouse. File types, there is no limit of database issues, DB links or web service. These are open. Any stakeholder can use any type of database like Oracle or SQL or MySQL, whatever is there. We have not bound anyone to change their databases. So that is what we have designed here, and almost we have achieved this in a very less time. And if we see the project, it was very huge, but thanks to BNR and the stakeholders, they have actually managed it well, and they have cooperated with us. And then we are now at this stage that now we are looking at quality of the data, and we are actually working with the business users also to review the data quality, and we are consulting with them how to improve on this. So that is where we are. Is there any other slide, Anath? Okay. So this was the initial requirement we had discussed: name of core systems, other applications, database type, network type, dedicated focal persons. Yeah. So these were the initial requirements. Based on this, we designed the structure of the data warehouse and the business intelligence. This is what we have actually gathered from the stakeholders initially when we started this project.
So do we have any questions from any participant? Okay, I don't see any question. So probably I can ask a question for Wilson. Wilson, thank you very much for taking time to take us through the entire project, and I believe the benefits you talked have really helped all the external stakeholders. But just can you give us a sense how many banks and external stakeholders we are talking about who have already signed up for this new EDWH? So my question, Wilson, is how many banks and how many such institutions have joined the new EDWH? Okay,
thank you very much. Can I respond or I wait for?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So far, we have over 600 stakeholders. We have 17 banks. We have 17 insurance companies. We have over 90 Forex bureaus. We have 460 circles. We have 20-something my MFIs. So overall, we have over 600 stakeholders assigned to this. Thank you.
Thanks. So that's quite an impressive number, Wilson.
Including the central bank.
Can I respond, Wilson?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Ranjan, it is not an option for any stakeholder to decide to go through this or not. It is mandatory, and all banks, insurance companies are live with the current data. The remaining who have no database or systems in place, we have given them option to start from a certain date. Like we have given them September 2017. From September 2017, you have to upload data on a daily basis, and they are catching up. So it's not optional for anyone.
Okay.
Is it
so
clear?
The stakeholders who are still using an Excel sheet, do you have a kind of a plan given to them by when they should come on board with the automated submission process?
No, that plan actually, yeah, Wilson can respond to that.
Thank you very much. So the plan is there, and as I mentioned, even the central bank is trying to help them in one way or the other to ensure the automation is in place. For instance, the Forex Bureau, They are trying to look for one kind of system that they can use. The central bank has helped them in terms of sourcing and procuring the companies to come and help them. There's some financial support that is being provided for the forex bureaus. The central bank is closely monitoring on how the implementation of this is ongoing. Similarly, arrangement is being prepared for the SACCOs. These are saving association cooperatives.
Okay.
Down level to ensure that they have a core system is in place to move from the ledger book likewise structure to the automate. So the central bank is trying to help through this process. So for the SACCO automation, there is no fixed timeline, but it shouldn't be years from now, because so basically those are the big stakeholders that don't have systems in place. Then at the moment, besides the benefit of this project, it has been able to expose the data gaps even in institutions that have systems in place. Just a simple example. Sometimes you get the data and you find this person is a Mr., but when you check the gender type is a female or is a cooperative. Because these are certain things that institutions don't mind so much while capturing information at customer level or at accounting opening level. So these gaps have been observed, and the institutions are putting measures to ensure there is historical data cleanup and ensuring that current information is complete to the KYC requirements and other data requirements. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wilson. So we have a question from Jackson. He's asking, how flexible is the system?
Let me answer this. Hi, Jackson. The system is pretty much flexible in sorting or analyzing or comparing data, whatever you want, on what dimension or what segment or sector, whatever you want. As I mentioned, we have an ad hoc reporting tool called Vision Catalog. In that catalog itself, you can define different type of criteria on different fields to get your analysis. I hope this clarifies.
Yeah. So just to add on, I think that clarifies. Yes, there are certain structured reports that the business users have defined. But as mentioned, from the system, it has option where you can go in and mine the data the way you want. It gives you, then you export it to Excel, then you can do different graphics from Excel, but already organized in the way you want. Also, maybe in future, if you want to link this to different analysis tools, that option is also possible. I hope, yeah. Thank you.
So does it answer the question, Jackson? Okay, thanks.
Okay. He is satisfied. There is a question from Paul also, I think.
Yeah, we have a question from Paul. He's asking, could you discuss a bit how the shift to this EDWH system has changed, if at all, the budgetary and or staff support of the BNR that is required to start and maintain it?
Yeah, that's for you, Wilson.
Oh, sorry. What? I'm trying to follow up the questions on the Q&A. What was the question? Sorry, come again.
Yeah, the question is, could you discuss a bit how the shift to this EDWH system has changed, if at all, the budgetary and or staff support of the BNR that is required to start and maintain it?
Okay, I'll try to, as I somehow mentioned about that, this has helped a lot. I gave example in some of the institutions where they had to put aside 2 to 5 resources to prepare the prudential reports. So this is normal. So these people who are required to do this can do their own business. They can do the business side. So this is normal. The other is the timely reporting. So this has saved a lot from the data provider in terms of penalties and other warnings because of erroneous reporting and not adhering to timely reporting. So at the moment, I cannot give you the numbers or the budget benefits it has impact on institutions. This is at the institutional level, but this is, I think it is visibly. The other side is on the data consolidation, meaning the system, when the data comes, is able to consolidate. So the staff in the BNR side to work on each and every institution, summarize the data at the end of it all, consolidate it. This is normal. The system is able to do that. Also, whatever information that we have that was designed, that we capture from, that we get from the institution, is beyond the prudential data that we all know from supervision point of view. From the central bank, we've been getting a lot of data demands. For instance, every now you want to see the Minister of Commerce, they want to see SME financing performance-wise. At local administration level, they want to see access to finance by region. Before they would, the request comes, and then the central bank asks for the same information to the stakeholders. And there was this kind of, complaints that the central bank is asking too much. So whatever we have designed is that this tool should be able to provide information to different policy institutions. Gender ministry, they want to see the access of finance by gender in insurance, pension, whatever. So we believe, actually we don't believe it's possible from the central bank to be able to provide such a data information to different policy institutions. So I think this gives an sense the likely cost benefit that my friend is asking for, though I cannot give in a quantified way. This has been the cost benefit in terms of the real numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, can I add some more on this, Wilson or
yes?
Ranjan? Yeah, okay. In other terms, in BNR also, we have discussed about the stakeholder side cost analysis and other things where there are 2 to 3 staff actually dedicated for this to prepare these reports and submit. At BNR level, in each department, each division, there were people who are just trying to consolidate things. So now they will be able to analyze things instead of consolidating and preparing things for the management. And for the other ministries, what Wilson has mentioned, that they need many type of information from BNR. So in that case also, the BNR was, there were many people just doing this preparation of information and submitting to government agencies or any other NGOs or world agencies. And then there was another point, yeah. Now in this case, like I'll give an example, the information and the structure we have designed in a way that it actually captures the future prospects also and the international best practices. We have tried to implement international best practices also in this system. And that is also conveyed to the stakeholders, and they are also now trying to get onto that, to providing that type of information. For example, if I say the industry classification, Now, there was no industry classification. There was just a sector classification on a very top level, on a very high level. For these classification on the industry or the sectors. So what we did is we introduced the NICS codes. I know many of you are aware of that North American industry classification system, which is being used in many parts of the world. So we tried our best to do these international to implement these international best practices also in the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson and Kareem. So, Paul, does it answer a question?
There is another question, I think.
There is a question from Caesar. Is within a scope of the project ML information? If yes, what kind of reports are considered? So I think, is this right? Can I go? Yes. This is an interesting question. Apparently, in designing the information, the scope of the data that is captured, this was put into consideration. And at the moment, we are trying to develop a separate module for money laundering module, which will be pulling from the data warehouse. So this is aimed to provide the ML-like array warning indicators and reports for the ML concerned people. So I can say it is yes. So what kind of reports are considered within the data warehouse? The data warehouse is having the data. Then the module separately will be able to provide customized reports for the ML information. So this is something that actually that should be completed within the next financial year, having a separate module that will be fetching data from the data warehouse, trying to produce more or less customized reports. So what kind of data is, we have tried to make sure that the KYC is comprehensive as much as possible, that it should be able to provide any report. And the way it is structured in the data warehouse, even the customer information is linked to financial information. So it has been designed in such a way that you can see individuals having many customer or many accounts, what the balance is at the end of the month or the end of the year. Kareem, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, we just introduced a small piece of AML in this thing, which is a real-time data extraction from this MNOs and MTOs, money transfer operators and telecommunication systems. We have just introduced, but as mentioned by Wilson, the AML is in process. So, of course, the AML will be residing within this data warehouse, and it will take feed from the data warehouse to have different type of dashboards and indicators and everything. But yes, we have a real-time data collection for this money, mobile money transfers and others, which is in place, and we have designed dashboards also, and it is live.
Thank you, Kareem. Do you have any more questions? Wilson, I have a question for you. This is Ranjan here.
Yes, Ranjan.
We spoke about the benefits of this implementation. Do you want to let us know what challenges you faced in rolling it out to all the stakeholders? Because a few of them are, I guess, quite small and may not be too IT-savvy organizations. Now, how did you push this new kind of a new program with them?
Yeah. Thank you very much. One of the challenge, as you know, in anything, especially involving this kind of huge number of external stakeholders, are the delays and the priority or the ownership at the manager level. You know, at the start, you find we have also our internal projects, many projects. So, so at the start, institutions were not seeing so much value attached to this. Towards the mid, that's when they realized the value it was adding, not particularly to the central bank, but realigning the internal business processes. So that was the first challenge. And the central bank didn't want to use, you know, the heart of being a regulator, and you have to impose and put up a fixed timeline. We had to take it in a slow way that people understand, see the value addition it has, and not trying to kind of create an industry outcry, given that we want the lowest data as much as possible, because of, you would imagine others coming up and saying, no, this is not right. Why do you want to get every access of data in our data warehouse? So we had to take it in a slow process. Then the other is internally from the project management point of view, given you're following up this, you have other internal tasks, and you know, so this to some extent created a delay. So the other is the capacity, the IT capacity from these institutions to understand the business logics, because this project is not so much entirely IT. No, it's understanding the business logics. So when you create the view, you have also to have a good understanding on how the logic is. Let me say just one example. If I come to open up and a customer should understand that I'm a customer, this is my information should be linked to my account information. And my account information needs to be linked to the general ledger that provides the trial balance. So the people who are developing, who are creating the views or the scripts, as Karim mentioned, they did not they were not understanding these logics. So this is someone, IT is maybe system maintenance. This is what they do. So when you come bringing in something information with some logics or integrity logics that you want them to apply, it was always a challenge. It took time for people to understand and like that. So I can say largely those were the big challenge. Those are the big challenges. Though also internally is that the culture change. You see, people are used to getting the reports and they pick a few information they use to prepare their own output report. And here we are changing. We are changing the current supervision or regression approach, where they are required to be more or less business analysts. So business analyst is to use the system and be analytics of the information that is coming. We understand progressively that changes with the given kind of related trainings. So maybe from the technical point of view, also Karim can remind me of the challenges we have encountered. So,
yeah, thank you, Wilson. You have actually covered every area. For me, what I personally think everyone knows, change is very difficult. That too in humans. If you want to change a human who is very comfortable and he doesn't want to come out of his or her comfort zone, that was the biggest challenge. But as you mentioned, gradually, we didn't force initially, but we went them, we connected with them every time. We created actually Skype groups, and we advised them to use Skype for any questions. So we are not far away from them. Anytime they can visit us and things like this we did, and in the end we are at a good stage.
Yeah. Thank you, Wilson and Karim, for explaining that. I'm sure it must be a combination of both advocacy and hand-holding, right?
Yes,
all along.
yes.
And I'm sure that it would have given the desired result to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I see a question from Morocco, friend. Did I interject your Mr. Rajan?
No,
I think from the Morocco is saying we have an IT solution that allows banks to send their reports each month. We are not yet there on the real time, but the problem is how we can be sure about the data integrity. How do you handle this issue with your database?
Okay, can I answer this, Wilson? Fadwa?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Fadwa, actually we have implemented certain logics in the system that if these things are not there, the process will fail. For each field, we have defined a logic, that business logic. If customer ID is there and account number is not there, of course it will not work. And if 3 accounts are there and the customer ID is not there, it will not work. These are just small examples, but we have put many logics and we are improving on day by day. Again, I will come on that point that we have not forced everything on the day one. We are gradually increasing and improving the logics to get data quality better and better. So that is what we have done here. I hope this clarifies your question.
Yeah, actually, just to add on.
Yeah, please.
From the observation is that because the output reports they prepare and they send at the end of the month. When we pull the data and we try to get our own report, they are different, especially reports linked to non-financial data. For the financial, it is simple. The trial balance has to balance at any case. So in this case, the integrity is the trial balance has to balance. If it doesn't, the extraction fails for you to have a balance sheet and income statement. But the big issue on the data integrity is on the non-financial data. You pull, you want to see these loans are to which sector. And because this is not maintained from the word go, you cannot have that. So the question we're asking at the end of the day here is, how have they been able to prepare, SME reports or gender-wise reports that we use? When you pull from their system, you see a lot of gender not applicable. And so we have put in the system that for certain field, it should adhere to this guideline. Gender field is either female, male, or a corporate. Simple as that. Anything other than that, it should fail. And this, in the process, everything is failing because this has not been focused on in terms of capturing corporate information. I hope this adds on to what Karima said. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson.
Okay, so thank you, Wilson, and thank you, Karim, and thank you all for joining the webinar. This was very informative, and I hope you enjoyed learning the experience of Rwanda. And if you have any questions, we'll have an opportunity for more webinars going forward. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we plan to have this on monthly basis. So keep an eye to my emails for the upcoming webinar. Like I had mentioned earlier, we'll be sending this the recording of this webinar. So for those of you who joined in the middle of the session, you will receive this in your email, and we'll also post it on the website as well as on the Learning Network on DFI. Again, thank you very much and have a good day and a good weekend.